one section where I get to say one. Everything else is about class one.
You mean there's like an answer choice there? There's not an open.
What department, how many have you done, including hours, do you have a job in that field? Do you have to relocate and where you're? And then at the end, it's like, please share any additional feedback. That's all I would.
That's the place to really open
That's
up.
what I have to say.
I have plenty of additional feedback, you know.
Oh, that's what Haley said too. I was off on the legal office, my journal.
And it's so funny how y'all have gotten a questionnaire today, you know.
Yeah.
That's often.
Yeah, the one today was just like very odd. But I have my district on for a second.
Now, here's a goofy thing. Now, I'll never correct you on this, but my mentor, when I was going through all this evaluation stuff, and there's two things that people know me to do. One is stats and evaluation, the other is environmental ed. And my mentor, who taught me so much of this, always said, he would always get on me about saying the word survey. He would say, now remember, it's not a survey. I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, it's a questionnaire. Survey is the method. We're surveying. You could survey with focus groups or questionnaires or observations, surveying. But the thing is an instrument, it's a questionnaire. So I always, in my mind, think here and saying, well, it's actually a questionnaire. The method is surveying. So I'll never correct you, but y'all know what, you know, it would be. But there's such an art to this. It's such a questionnaire. And listen, 2 weeks from now, at our last class, I'm going to share with you some jobs that are out there doing this stuff. This very thing, building instruments, measuring things for people that there are people that don't know how to do this. And there's a real job set out there. There's a real, for all different kinds of companies that they'll bring you in to measure stuff. And I think that's why I shared with you last week. I get asked more than anything to come in to be the measurement guy. How do we measure knowledge, attitude, or behavior? How do we do it with an instrument? How do we do it with a focus group, an interview? How do we do it with validity? How do we do it recognizing subjectivity? It's just different. So this is a real skill set. If you enjoy this stuff, there are jobs doing this. You know, I enjoy environmental education a little bit more than I do the data stuff. So I do more environmental ed now, but it's cool to know how to do it. You know?
Dr. Kerman, have you watched Ted Lasso?
I've heard of this, but who is this? Ted Lasso.
You were Ted Lasso.
Is that
You were, it's.
sideline? Right. I've heard of this. Like, what is this person do? Is it like an online
It's a
person?
TV show.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Apple TV. But
Maybe
he
not.
and
I don't know.
me and Kason were talking about it last week and how we think that you act like a lot. He's a American football coach that goes to British football. He is a British football coach.
Oh, okay. The actor that plays him, what's his name?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Does he have a mustache?
Mhm.
A dark mustache?
Yes.
Okay. My friend, so you remember seeing those thank you cards that we did? That I said Sarah created them. Sarah's husband, Jason, has mentioned Ted Lasso to me. Now, he's never said, Nick, you're like him, but he's just said, have you ever watched this guy? He's like a coach and he's kind of, okay. So that's interesting because Jason was telling me about that. Okay.
Well, they just came out with a new season. Well, they're coming out with a new season with the episodes are coming out week by week.
Okay.
I've been watching it. I've been watching it over time. But
Really? Is it like a motivational kind of guy? Like a, yeah,
very motivational, very positive.
yeah.
And then he teaches British football, but he was an American college football coach.
Okay, so
He got hired. As football like soccer.
okay, so that's what I was about to ask. So he was doing American football and now he's teaching soccer
Yeah.
over there.
But he knows nothing about soccer. Yeah, he knows nothing about soccer.
Okay,
He was just
okay.
hired on to teach the coach. And
That's
about the
cool.
team and him and his boss and yeah,
Okay,
it's
That's
really
pretty neat.
funny.
I'll
But it's
check
also
it
like
out.
super deep. Yeah, at times it's
Deep.
really good.
like this class, deep. funny, but pretty deep. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy it. I'll have to check that out. I'm actually gonna see Jason and Sarah, this weekend. They're gonna come over and see us to watch the G-Day game. You know, the kids will watch that on TV with us.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right. I wonder who's gonna win, you know? But, that's right.
everyone rides a fan shuttle, I'll be one of them.
Oh, boy.
I will wait until I get yours.
That's what you need to do. I can't wait. One of these days, I'm gonna get on a bus and Jesse's gonna be driving. That's gonna be so
Whenever
fun.
I drive past my campus, I have to look at it.
I can't wait.
It's hard to tell, but
All right,
I'm hoping
So-
to.
I'm always on the other side of it.
How do I tell that from the outside?
Are the numbers are on the side of it. There's like in front. of the back. And it's the last three numbers. It's the last.
so let's talk about these items for a second. All right? Can I talk about the process folks? Chloe, did you say you were a process person?
Yes, but I don't think
All right, that's all right.
my brain says.
That's okay. Are there any process folks that have an item or two they'd like to share with us? What are you thinking about process? Now, is this about you, your delivery, or is this like what are you calling process?
I was just thinking about, structured communication.
Good, good. So this could be used not only for you right now in the pilot, but remember our goal for the pilot program is hand this off to somebody else. Kind of like Brent did, weeks ago. He came in and said, look, I handed this to the people in Antioch Church, and they're still doing it. So that same instrument could be used to measure instructor capability. So what are you interested in with the instructor, Isaac? What's the top of the funnel item?
Is the instructor communicated the overall topic clearly?
Clear communication, top of thing. What's your response scale on that? What are you going with? Like a 1 to 5, 1 to 7? Are you there yet? You want, all right. And you said something, you said a word clearly in there. You said the instructor communicated the topic clearly. That word clearly is a good word because it's kind of a loaded word. Sigrid might think it was clear. Jesse might not. So that's a great opportunity for a strongly disagree, strongly agree kind of feeling scale, attitude scale. So think about that. That's good. Yeah, that's good. What was the second item? Did you get another cranking down the funnel?
The instructor communicated the objectives clearly.
All right, so we go from topic to objectives. Did you get another one below that? What's the next one?
The instructor communicated the directions for activities clearly.
All right, I see. So you got a leading stem on there, the instructor, ... and then communicated even, and you can repeat that as you go down and get more and more specific. That's really good. It's exactly what Stuffle Bean would call process evaluation. The ability of that facilitator to get that thing done, to move us to action, to move us to a product. Good stuff. That's beautiful, beautiful process evaluation. That's good. Anybody else do process eval? So that's right, Summer. What are we thinking? Top of the funnel, most broad item. What do you say? Now, let me ask you this. Is this done at the very end of the program? Or is this, okay, so when you say program, you truly mean the series, okay? And we could even frame that, we could frame it like that, or we could frame it, the program was effective. What answer choices we think about?
Oh, I did want to send it, but I
Okay.
used like one, like absolutely not. Two is no. Something like that, so I used it, but I didn't just use.
And here, just to make your life a little easier, Summer, and for everybody too, if I erase, I'll do it over here for a second. Well, I'll do it over here. Someone will grab it. If you're like me and you sit there and you go, oh my gosh, I want to do 1 to 7, because you always say 1 to 7 best, but I can't figure out what the words I'm going to put 1 to 7. You know, you could, and this is totally okay, put 4 numbers down that have what we call anchors with them. The words are in the boxes, and then just the other ones don't have anything. So you could put not at all, a great deal, and somewhat, and let the respondent figure out what these are. Just so you're not racking your brain like, oh God, what's the difference between 3 and 4 and 2 and 3? That's good. I like your 1 to 7. So you start with the program was effective. All right, where are we going from there?
Did you find a teacher effective?
All right, so now we're talking about the individual, and just imagine that as its own construct, as its own thing. What's after teacher? I mean, we can just imagine this.
Did you find, did the teacher communicate effectively?
So the communication, kind of like I was saying, and then just imagine, there's 3. Imagine drilling down on communication. Changing things up using PowerPoint and activity and making it relevant to me, and they're enthusiastic, and just imagine that.
That was my next one was, did the teacher use effective activities?
Beautiful. And look at that drilling down. And we're gonna be able to see very easily when Summer gets, and I'm assuming your 1 is the negative and your 7 is the positive. Summer's gonna be able to have a score for this individual that ranges from, let's say there are 4 items, 4 to 28. And you're gonna be able to break down that person's score and figure out where their teaching came off the rails. In other words, like, oh gosh, where did they struggle? That's exactly what we should be doing. Good stuff. Very, very good. Process. Where are our product folks? Who did a product? All right, Sigrid, what are we thinking? Product-wise, smart shopping,
I just did
healthy.
3 questions
right.
and they each are like one level of tab, basically, because I like sort of how that gauges basically like their takeaway, like forward,
Yeah.
takeaway initiative.
Is that from the whole program, or is this just like, is this
I was
at the
gonna do
end,
this
or?
at the end of the activity, each activity.
Okay.
And then probably a more in-depth one at the end of the program. This is
Good
just 3.
deal.
Um,
Okay, here's product. What are we thinking about?
I wasn't sure, somewhere between a 5 or a 7 scale.
Okay.
From a strongly disagree to a strongly agree.
Okay.
I like, yeah, agree for highest points, but then.
Good.
I learned something new, which is knowledge and also hopefully is a strong agree, kind of leading
Okay.
positive mindset.
Right.
I feel better about my ability to shop for groceries,
Wow.
and I will try something I learned here in my next grocery shopping trip.
Wow. So, and we're gonna make sure the same answer choices with all of them.
From strong disagree to.
Yeah, but imagine 3 items, 1 to 7. If somebody scored 21, not only did they build a knowledge base and feel maybe more confident, but they're likely to do something. That's really cool. That's not a bad way to go at all.
I also think that the 7-point scale, especially for like that last one, since like it's a behavior thing that gives you more options to be like, well, maybe like it can be a 5 out of a 7 where it's like, yeah, I like that, but also no guarantees.
Can you imagine? And this is a little kind of a teaser thing into what I do in my data class in the summer. If Sigrid added a couple of items about demographics in general. How often do you go to the grocery store? What's your age range, whatever it might be. Imagine breaking down that data by that stuff. People who go to the store more often, how are they in terms of their score quantitatively versus those who go more or less? So that's a really neat way to think about it. 1 to 7 scale, good. Any other product evaluation? Thanks, Sigrid. That's cool. What do you think, Randy? What would you say? Top of the funnel.
So I have a stat, is what you think?
Yeah, a leading STEM. Yeah, that's good.
That says I am comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the first one is finding the rules in the word.
All right.
So I have it all.
Okay, start there.
5, 7,
No problem. No problem.
the second one is using.
Okay.
I know where to find them. I know where to use them. And the third one is thinking about how to use these tools for my.
Oh, very good.
Here's a lot of things. And this would be for the first activity. So that first activity is using the tools. So know if they are comfortable already thinking about how to use the tools for whether.
That's outstanding. And just imagine after that first activity and reusing that same instrument a couple activities later, seeing how we're doing. You saw that progression, finding it, using it. I mean, that's big time drilling down. Good stuff. And whether it's 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, that's really nice. The higher the score, the more positive the product on the other end. Good deal. Just general question for everybody. how do we add a little set to this, to your instrument? What would you do to put a little social exchange on it? Put a little personality to it. We learned that social exchange theory is so important. What would you do to, you know, kind of like we went over a little bit ago, what would you do to that instrument? What do you think?
Yeah, colors.
Okay, yeah. I mean, even if the paper's colored, even if you've got graphics on it and branded, yeah, that's good. What else?
I want this other, I was put personality of that, so like, there was no exclamation points.
All right, yeah. As simple as that is, that matters. And social exchange theory, and Don Dillman would say that's good stuff. That increases response rate. And if you're gonna spend this much time building a good instrument, you want people to take it, and you want them to take it serious and valid. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, you have like a reward or something.
Beautiful, an incentive. And communicate that with a instruction thing at the top, or in the email that they get with this. Here's how much time it's gonna take. Here's why you were selected. Here's what we're gonna do with your data. Good stuff. Y'all see how important this is? I mean, that's just. All right, I got a little challenge for you, okay? So I'm gonna hand you, I want y'all to, and we might just be able to work. I know Jesse's gonna roll out just maybe. We may share a team member from over here, just to kind of split it up. I'm gonna give you an instrument here. All right, I'm gonna give you this. This is a real instrument that was used in Virginia, is still used today in Virginia. Then I'm gonna show you some data that goes with it. Okay, and then we're gonna talk about this. You're gonna find this, you know a lot about what's going on here, 4-point scale. Used all over Virginia with thousands, here's another thing, thousands of kids. 4-H camp all over the state. They're using it this summer. We used it a bunch. And I'm curious to know what you think about this. So 4-point scale. No neutral, no, I don't know, no, I don't care, no NA. That's okay. That's what they got. There's the instrument. You notice two things at the bottom of it. Got a couple demographics, got some ages, got some male, female, how they identify there. 26 items in terms of items, and then 2 demographics. I have in ELC the data that goes with this. And I've downloaded it just to kind of show you. We looked at this a little bit ago, but here it is. And this is in the week 13 folder, just kind of show you. Just like we talked about at the top of class today, items are in the vertical columns. People are in the horizontal rows. So let me ask you, how many individuals does this sample represent? Really? If you got, I definitely would be able to, I can't see it right here, so, I mean, right now I can, without my glasses, but back here I can't see. So there are 20 horizontal rows, 20 kids that I randomly selected from the group, thousands of kids. 20 kids, each one has a horizontal row. And there are 26 items across the top. And I just want to point out to you that A through Z correspond across the top of this with A through Z on your instrument. Okay? So if you want to grab item D, I was proud of my camp groups. There it is. There's that item right there, item D, for those 20 kids. All right. Now, as we look across here, AA and AB are a little different. And I wrote it right on here because I am easily forgetful. AA is age in years. So this is the age of each child that completed this. And AB is male, female. 1 for male, 2 for female. Coded right there. And gang, I put the codes right on here. Years ago, I used to put them on a Post-it note and then I'd lose the Post-it note. So I just put the codes right in the file. So it's all there. So I can tell you what this individual child, this female who's 11 years old, all their responses across the entire instrument. Another thing I'll do, and we have folks that enter this data in for us that do it on paper. What I try to do is I try to put a number on the instrument, like with my pen, I write it. And that number corresponds with the number over here in my Excel file, just in case my volunteer made an error typing the data in. I know, oh, this is instrument 10. I'm going to go to row 10 and check it and just make sure it's correct. Just the best practice for it. Now, here's the problem. We got some data. I don't want you, sorry, a second. I don't want you to worry so much about the male, female, and age, all right? But I do want you to worry about the item. Because the items are not grouped together. They're not, be careful tonight, Jesse, out there driving. We'll see, you got your recording going here, so we'll see it next week. Thank you, Jesse, be careful. There are 5 landscapes on that inventory. There are 26 items. There are 5 groups that those items belong. Now, here's a good piece of news for you. I'm gonna give you a handout, and I'm gonna tell you that I gave a name to each of the 5 baskets, each of the 5 landscapes, each of the 5 constructs, all right? I gave them a name. And I also am gonna tell you how many items are in each landscape. Wow. This is a big handout. This is the competition part. This is where I'm gonna get y'all work together. You know, we don't do this alone. You gotta do this with a group, you know? So there are 3 landscapes, the first 3, and you'll notice the name of them at the top: respecting and accepting others, self-responsibility, and social empathy, are comprised of 6 items. So there's 18 items locked up in 3 landscapes. The last 2 landscapes have 4 each: decision-making and self-awareness. That's 26. My challenge for you is, first, thinking about the names of these landscapes, put the items where you think they belong. So you gotta read the items, and you gotta figure out, okay, I think item A, well, I'm gonna just tell you, the first landscape, I did it for you, so we're on roll for it. So the first landscape is comprised of A, G, J, M, and Z. Those items, so right now, on your questionnaire, mark those out. Can't use them again, because they've already been parked in construct 1, landscape 1, respecting and accepting others. All right? I ran the data on that, and I'll just show you how we're going to do this one more time. All right, if you remember from last week. So we're going to go in to Excel, and here's the other sheet right here. Remember the colorful one. So you're going to download the reliability calculator in week 13. You're going to download the camping data in week 13. And what I'm going to do, I'll do this slowly, I'm going to show you. I'm going to have to grab A, J, G, M, N, Z, and each of these, park it in this spreadsheet. But here's what I like to do, and I did this ahead of time, so I wouldn't bore you. I created a tab down here, and I called it Respecting and Accepting Others. Because ahead of time, I identified the 6 items that I thought belonged together in that landscape, and here they are. So I grabbed each one from here, and I put it in its own tab. And I just want you to notice, so here are the 6 items right here, gang. This other fun stuff, I'll show you a little bit later. I was just playing around with and getting some memes and stuff over here. Those are the 6 items. So my advice might be, once you figure out where your items belong, like what items go in landscape 2, go in and create a new tab at the bottom and copy and paste your items into that. So you have a nice tab for each of your landscapes. So you have 6 tabs down here. Like I made one called self-awareness. That's another one that you got, landscape 5. But gang, once I put them together, I'm going to copy these, remember? And I'm going to dump them into this spreadsheet. I'm all right there, remember? And paste. And that's where I got that value right there. 0.714, I called it. You'll see it? That's where I got it from. Okay. One other piece of advice before I turn you loose to start grouping your items, and this is the hardest part, is figuring out where they belong. Before you click out of this and you delete all this and you put your next construct in, your next landscape, I want you to get 3 numbers off of this sheet because you're going to need them. I want you to write down Cronbach's alpha. And on your data sheet, page 1, you're gonna write in your cron box alpha, just like I did, 0.714, you write that in. And somebody on your team's gonna write a little verbiage down here about what the heck that means. Is that good or not? Some of y'all might get 0.43 as a cron box alpha, and you know what? If you believe validity has been met, if you could read those items and you believe they go together, as I put at the bottom, validity is more important than reliability. You go with it. You go with it. Even if your reliability is low, you go with it. Write that reliability down. What I want you to do on the back. If you flip this over, and then there's a box on the back just for notes if you want to write where things belong. But if you go on the back, I want you to write your mean, see the thing in orange, the mean, and your standard deviation. I want you to write that down on the back as well. The 3 numbers before you click out of this file for each landscape. All right? Your cron box, your mean, and your wiggliness we talked about last week, standard deviation. Now, I'm gonna let y'all do that, and then we're gonna talk about how to interpret that mean value. All right, but for right now, I want y'all to figure out what items go together. Write them down on page 1, and once you feel like that's it, that's our final answer, go in, grab the items you believe go together and build a tab. Build a tab and get ready to copy and paste. Let's do that first. Let's see what's going. The competition part is I want to see how high the alphas can get. And I want to see how close you get to what our national committee, I was part of a national committee, what our national committee said belongs where. I'll give you the answer key that our committee came up with, because we actually did this too as a committee. So see how close we get. And I'm going to be here to help you, because I have my opinions about these items too, where they belong. So we'll go back over here to our raw data. First, where do they belong? Where do they belong? Grab all this. Got my data here.
Put that in.
Once you use it once, you can't use it again.
Yeah, I feel like somebody.
That was my problem, Isaac. That's, our committee was the same way. I was like, oh my gosh, this item should go multiple places.
Yeah.
Somewhat similar.
I like the way you're doing that. So that's a really smart way to do it. That's great. I did a very similar thing with my colors there. That's right. Very similar. Let's see what y'all get. What you got, Chloe?
I don't know.
I know. Yeah. Which item are you looking at? What's the number?
X
I think that the part of that I focused on was that I completed. There's probably things that I do, I got done, yeah. That's yeah. X is kind of according to our committee, we thought it was more of a, we got it done, we were responsible. Yeah. We put X with social or self-responsibility.
Yeah, I had all those units.
I can see that too. I can see it in both places, self-responsibility and self-awareness.
They're very similar.
Absolutely.
Anything that says like, I was.
There was 2 minutes. I was project like completely. I can't look at that, I could be like a social control, but I saw something like.
That's a good, yeah. Here's one thing I looked at this, okay. Self-responsibility was more about the completion of something, like doing it, getting it done. And self-awareness was, if I give you, I asked for help when I needed it. I was aware that I was struggling, so I asked for help. I was aware of that. Just as an example. But again, this is up to you. You can put that somewhere and then let's check out reliability. Let's see what you get, you know? See how consistent, how well it plays with others in the sandbox, in other words. Yeah. What we thinking over here, team? Got your color coding going on. Let me check this out. Is that, what is that? Okay. Is that what you're thinking too? Thank you.
Oh. Start nodding your head.
I was just saying.
Okay.
That's exactly what our committee.
Well, I was wondering
does.
if like.
Very good.
Category we have.
Very good. You got, that's 100%. Okay. According to our committee, I mean, with a national committee, a big bunch of them, it's like 15 people on this thing. We all said, look, that's what we're locking in. HKLQ. So that was in a different order, but HKLQ is what we
I
said.
was thinking.
Good for you. That's great. Good reliability there, you know? We're very consistent.
Let's do this self-awareness.
We had two of those on.
Is that what are you talking about? What are those letters on?
And then I have
Social
three in that. And now thinking that the actual.
Yes, that.
So they're like after-
You know what? I'll be gone. That's pretty good. So you had.
Once we start to talk about it a little bit more like rule following, basically.
Yeah, I'll tell you, so there are 6 letters in that.
Yeah, we one more.
According to our national committee, you have 4. 4 of the 5 that you have are the same as our committee said. I think that makes it right or wrong, it's just hard.
Yeah.
That's right. I didn't see that. Where did you put that?
Haven't been anywhere. Every time we were.
So F was one that, as a national committee, we parked in, so, which you were listening to others. Yeah, it was a good list. That's where we put that.
So,
Yeah, just-
for self-awareness, we have.
Right. Sounds like you're almost ready to lock that one in. That's great. So once you decide, then you can start going into a raw data, grabbing those items and build them into a new tab as you prepare for Funbox Alpha. Yeah. Once you decide on that, get ready to calculate your alpha. That's good.
I think probably D would go there. I was trying. I want to get D to go there instead of.
Yeah, is it true?
Really good. Fine, very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
I can worry on.
This is great. This is great. This is great.
I like you, yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, wait. Well,
Where we park and stuff, right?
I'll give it a word, easy add.
Perfect, perfect. Just according to our committee. Outstanding. Outstanding. Wow.
Everything has to be.
That's excellent.
And this one.
Grabbing our items here, parking them in.
And then we just.
Your PDF page.
Once we have that. I think we would- I think it's very important to know that the projects, we can use to discuss it with you. I'm sure that it's on the meetings, but it's not in the conversation.
Oh, wait, could it open inside there? Can we just? Yeah. That was my, I'm sure that.
It's not as fun when you're doing it, and if you don't reach one end, you kind of watch out, they usually go up.
New activities are.
Sometimes not, and it's just people, you've only got 20 kids. If somebody says that alpha's a little low, are you concerned, no, we only got 20? If you have 30 or 40, that alpha's likely gonna go up. We get, we're good.
It's my.
It's not like it's weird. You had like a first. Because like they might have.
And that's where, looking at the data by demographic, let's look at males versus females. And that kind of gets back to that word subjectivity. Everybody's a little different, and their experiences are gonna drive.
Yeah, or you can looking at like by cabin.
Absolutely.
I know that like I had a that like they got so much fun for out the whole week, so like that's. Everybody is taking.
I do the analysis of that stuff in the summer thing.
Well, I-
Well, that, Randy, I'll tease you a little bit, but it is very,
interests me a lot.
well, it really is, and what happens so often is, people talk about the whole data set together, and they don't break it down by contextual variables, which is demographics. The type of person who responds matters. And sometimes the instrument works better, is more reliable, is more valid for this type of person than another. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And when you throw everybody together, yeah, the instrument might not be working. And we'll also put on stuff. I really love that. This is great. So I really, really like that. This is outstanding.
One more percent.
Randy's getting in there, getting alphas, means, and standard deviations. How we doing, Summer? We got them together?
Yeah, my computer.
That's okay. That's no problem. I mean, you can play along with us in this watch. Let me check.
That was.
This is outstanding, outstanding. Very good. Very good. Do I have to,
I've just been copying very clear, I have to copy it.
It was nice.
Saved.
Well, whatever you don't like yourself about
Getting out of your.
that is.
zone.
I.
Yeah, yeah.
No longer.
You're right, yeah. That's why having like your code written down, knowing that that tab, when you say self-responsibility, that tab consists of these 6 things. You gotta know the 6 things.
If I was, I would probably do it in, I should have large cap.
Well, you actually, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Always.
Yeah.
That might be stupid, but.
No, like anything that helps you, when you look at this again in 6 months, you can help, you're working for somebody and say, hey, tell me about this instrument. Is this working right? You go back to your file and go, okay, there they are. Those are the pieces of proof that were part of this batch.
When you're 5 and 92.
All right. Sigrid's getting into the data now, huh? So we're gonna copy the items that go with that into the Cronbox file, the colorful file. And we're gonna get 3 values from that for each of the 5 constructs, or I should say 4, I guess, that remain.
I
All right. This is great. Y'all are doing great. I'm really, really impressed.
You want even or odd numbers?
Our.
And then once you get this done, we're gonna talk about, what do you say about this? On the back side of that page, how do you interpret the means? How do you interpret the alphas? What do you say about it?
I think if I be the 5.
And I wanna talk about that. So important. We're gonna talk about this in just a second, when y'all get that down. What does this mean?
Yeah.
I have 4 data.
Y'all splitting this up, Sigrid? Good deal, good deal. I don't know how y'all are with those mouse pads. They always give me a heck of a time, but y'all seem to be
For
okay.
Excel,
with it.
they are not great.
No, I have to use my external mouse, kind of to help with that.
That is so, like the minimum 5. I think it's 1 thing. Or 6.
But yeah, this one, right, so yeah.
So that would be the minimum. And then that. So add on to
You understand. The sooner you get to see the bullets.
Now, this is an interesting question. It is an interesting question, Eddie, with that spreadsheet, with 4 items from 1 to 4. And the mean which is above, I'm almost wondering if that spreadsheet, is wacky or something.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, it's because there's a whole,
I was losing it. I really thought.
But I'll tell you what, we're gonna talk about this when everybody's done. That's exactly why we write down the minimum and the maximum for each one. So that when you go and check your data, you know, okay, does this make sense?
but now that it's 30.
Yeah, that's more like it. That's right. All right, the wiggliness, that's fairly okay.
Why have 2 monitors? I guess.
These working conditions are tough. I have to work at it. I can do this. I cannot handle this.
Not too much.
When you get those 3 values, and once you get those 3 values for each of those other constructs, I want you to stop, and we're gonna talk about the interpretation part together.
A,
Okay?
B, D, E, F, E, H. J, J, oh, J, J,
I'm good.
J, L.
This breaking kind of tricky.
Well, the Siegel one, the colorful one, you know, with me, and it's free. When I hire new stuff, close it out. This type is.
I went into a meeting, and it might do it, but it was just really
I had
one cell, and then leaving the rest.
R, S. I
Hey.
think when I got from here, I had track
Oh.
W,
We're gonna fill in the rest of our sheet here in just a couple minutes.
there we go, look at that.
So I have 2 now, and that's an I.
Very good. I was like sketching them before I wrote them, and then I came back to wrote them. So you can see my, this is the ours.
And the great news is, this is a huge part of High Part 3. This, that you'll turn in as a team. So like I said, y'all are getting this done. Getting this done. We're gonna talk about how to interpret these things together. And then we're gonna save qualitative for next week. It's too pretty of an afternoon. Y'all been working hard. I'm gonna let y'all go here. You got this interpretation. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Three weeks.
3 years.
3 weeks, like a onsite.
When you write down the cost value, does it always leave one place?
Yeah, we can.
Usually people put 2 decimal places.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but you can do great. No,
It's like.
I mean, yeah, like I put 0.714. Usually it's 2.
Is that so you have like the whatever percent?
Trying to get the doctor.
To 1 decimal point, yeah, exactly. So like 0.714 would be 71.4% consistent. Exactly. Exactly, yeah, very good. And just as a general practice for me, I don't do anything more than 3 significant figures. I mean, some people put 5, and I think that's just. I always do 3, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question, yeah. We're writing down our values here. Get them down there. Get them down there.
And that's information.
We'll talk about this in a minute.
Good five now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which guy?
Well, I tell you, you.
No, that's kind of, and we're gonna talk about this together. I do that because it helps me check if I did it right. So like, we had a great example. Randy got a mean that was above his 16. And we were looking at that going, that has to be a problem.
Okay.
So it just kind of reminds us, you know how sometimes I'll say the minimum score is this, the max is. I say that a lot because it helps us check. And we get a mean, is that in the ballpark? Or, you know, did you make it?
That makes sense because I initially wrote this over here and it was like,
You're like, wait a minute.
but it was under alcohol.
Yeah, that's okay. It's just a double check, just to keep you from embarrassing yourself in front of an audience, you know, talking about data. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I got this stuff and we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Plan that out.
I did that, but for. Yeah, my other teacher like fell in for that. I was like,
All right. We get the value written down here, okay?
we didn't even.
All right, it's okay. We got it, delegate, we got it, you know, that's good.
I'm set.
Okay, one
And listen, if you're doing this contract, and you're talking to somebody, they're paying you by the hour, you really wanna just take your time.
I'd love
And I
to.
would.
We'll monitor
Right.
this all day long. I would love to.
Take your time. I love it too. It's just a lot of fun to kind of look at.
Put the number 5 and then,
Okay.
4,
Right.
5.
For a landscape 3. farmhouse house, 0.99
E of 13.
and now 20.95. Standard deviation. 9.
The mean would be 13.
Yeah.
decision making, real estate,
Probably not, but
standard deviation is 222.
2 points.
That's average. Be a little bad.
Well, your outfit's looking like everything. Okay. It's okay.
Landscape 5 was 0.626. That's what I'm at.
Not bad at all.
And then that was 12 and standard deviation.
No, that was funny.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm good anytime.
Yeah, so I just need to know exactly the same.
Yeah. I don't know what's
Good.
early, what's after. I don't think it's maybe sometimes early or because of they can review or something. I haven't in the last semester.
So you got one more? You got it?
Okay, you
Got 'em, okay. Still got them? All right. So let me ask you a question here. Just curious, what's your highest crime box alpha?
Like that we calculated, or
If you
should that include
calculate.
A?
Not including A, the ones you did, before you did, what was your best one? Most consistent, okay? What was your alpha for 2? All right, I like the way you said that, 0.701 or 70.1% consistent. Okay, how about y'all?
0.655 for landscape 4.
So 4, okay, so 4 was your highest, 65, almost a little over percent, 70%. Good deal. Now, what's your lowest alpha?
Great question.
Curious,
Let's get 2.
okay? Interesting, okay. So here's the deal, both of them deal with the self-responsibility and self-awareness. Every single time you do this, even as a national committee, we struggle with putting items into those two baskets, which is really difficult. So that's okay. But remember, reliability is less important than validity. Just because your reliability is low, on page 1 of that data analysis worksheet, you're gonna say about your alpha, okay, that 0.4 something is low. But to increase this value next time we could, and what are you gonna say? What might you say to increase your alpha the next time we use this thing? Or we look at this data? We've only got 20 people here. So remember that, we've only got 20 kids here. What else can we do?
Add more items.
Throw in, yep, you got, for those two, one was 6, one was 4. Put more items together, ask more in-depth things. These are pretty general things, these are somewhat vague. So yeah, that's exactly right, very, very good. So make sure on page 1 of this, that you write those kind of things, acknowledge that that alpha is low. And it can be increased with a larger sample and more items. Or even maybe pilot testing this instrument a little bit better. Or something that was mentioned over here, we are not looking at the demographics of this group right now. This instrument may be working better for a certain type of 4H. Something to consider. You've got data on whether they're male or female and how old they are. It's sometimes interesting to look at things based on the type of respondent. And you can do that. And that's, I was joking around, Manny, that's something that I get into in the summertime, into my data class. And we don't use Excel, we use SPSS. Y'all ever heard of SPSS before? Statistical package for the social sciences. Really nice, user-friendly, drop-down menu kind of thing. It's nice to be able to do that. So, and we'll do Cronbach's alpha, it's really, really cool. In fact, in that program, not to get too nerdy on this, but in that program, it will tell you, you know how you all got an alpha for the overall landscape? That program will tell you how each item contributed to alpha. And if you got a bad egg in there, if we got rid of that egg, how alpha is going to go up or down. So this, what we're doing together is just tip of the iceberg. It's good stuff. So, all right, you got your alphas. Can I help you if you have any questions about items that went where? Can I tell you what our committee said, what went where nationally, just so you know? All right. So, you know the first one, that's what our committee, AGJMNZ, that's their committee. And this is like 15 of us from all over the country in a room looking at this stuff. Validity number 1. All right. You got that. Self-responsibility, here's what we said. 6 items, right? B, C, I, O, X, Y.
Yeah.
Okay? So I will say this, the committee, I have a note here, the committee was really, really torn on letter H. Some people put H in decision-making, some put H in self-responsibility. Just let you know, if you were also like, let's go. Okay, that's all right. That's just our committee. That's what we said. That's right or wrong. This is what the committee said. All right, so BCIOXY was self-responsibility. Social empathy. This is a little bit clearer one for some of us. That was DEFPTU. DEFPTU went in social empathy. Feelings about others. Decision making, that's a tough one, but looking at John, you seem to really get this. That was HKLQ. That's what our national committee said. And then self-awareness, the last 4 were RSBW. Committee said. Again.
What were the ones in self-responsibility?
Yeah, self-responsibility was BCIOXY. Some people put H up there. Toss up between self-responsibility and decision making. Okay. Y'all, just looking at this, y'all did really, really well with this. I just tell you one more thing about what they did. The committee, once we decided where things went, the committee, there's a software that we use that puts all the items. You remember how y'all over here in the Excel spreadsheet, like each one of the landscapes, each one of the constructs we put in here, and we got an alpha, and we got a mean and a standard deviation. We use a program that dumps all 26 items together at once. And literally, the program shakes up all the items, looks at them and says, for some reason, these 6 items are correlated with one another. And it drops them out of the hopper. And it says, of the remaining 20, what goes together? Oh, these 6 items go together. And it drops them out. And it says, of the remaining items, what goes together? And it continues doing that until you have 5 landscapes. And so the computer runs this big analysis, and it kind of helps us verify that. But that's total data nerd stuff. So I'll spare you on a pretty Wednesday afternoon, but that's what we did as a committee to look at this. Why do we do all this? There's so many decisions that get made about 4-H camp based on this data. And that instrument has got to be working well. And so this is one they continue to use. But I want to talk before we wrap up today, because it is so pretty outside. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this statement right here, because this is really important. We started today grouping items with trees and the tree leaves and acorns and putting them in the groups. You all put items in the groups. But I want to talk about how you talk about those items. So on the back side of your sheet, this is where you interpret your data, all right? So you got a mean, and I write it as mean summated scale score. That's a really fancy way of saying we added up each child's score on the back, and we gave them a total score, and then we got the average of everybody's total score. The mean summed or summated. And we use the word scale because, well, you know why we use the word scale? When we talk about scales, what do we mean by that in the context of a questionnaire? You've heard me use the word response scale before? That's why we use it, just because it's based on their answer choice. The mean summed score or scale score. Now, we had a teachable moment over here, Randy. I don't hope you don't mind me using it as an example. We were talking about on this sheet, I listed the minimum and maximum score for each landscape. 6 to 24, 4 to 16. And that's so important to do because Randy calculated the mean, and the mean was above, in that case, 16. And Chloe was like, well, that's kind of high. And it was because the spreadsheet, there was an error in it. I always make a mental note to myself and say, what are my bounds here? I'm going from 6 to 24, 4 to 16. So when I get an average, I know if I'm in the ballpark or not. So I always say it's preventing embarrassment. I don't want to embarrass myself up there in front of the committee when I'm giving a report of their data and they go, wait a minute, how did you get that? So that's just helping them. You get an average, you get a mean, and you get a standard deviation. If somebody says to you, we don't need a standard deviation, just report it. Anybody ever said that to you? We don't need that. What would you say to them? If you remember back in your days, maybe from a stats class or something, why do we need standard deviation? I'm going to show you a little example of why here. So standard deviation is a wiggliness. That's what I call it, wiggliness factor. It's how each person's score deviates from the average. Take a look at this simple little example I love to use. You got 10 people, all right? I present a statement to them, and isn't this some mistakes are horrible? That's the statement. 1 to 5 scale, strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, simple. 10 people. 5 people responded strongly disagree. In other words, they love snakes. They strongly disagree that they're horrible. 5 people strongly agreed that they're horrible. What would the average response be for this sample of 10? If 5 responded strongly disagree and 5 responded strongly agree. What does it say? You got it? It's 3. So when I summarize this data and I tell the committee, well, the average response here was neutral. They didn't really have a feeling. Is that true? No. If I knew that the standard deviation here was, by the way, would be 2. 2 up this way, 2 down this way. The swing, the wiggliness factor is 2 up and 2 down. That 2 tells me a lot. So just as a general rule of thumb, when you look at your standard deviations, and I was glancing at them as y'all were writing them down. Gang, if you have a standard deviation that's more than half your average, you need to, whoa, wait a minute now, this is real wiggly. I don't think y'all have anything near that, do you? Most of your standard deviations are 2 to 3, aren't they? Small, that's okay. But somebody ever stops you and says, why do we need that? That's why we need it, is because of that wiggliness. So let's talk about this. What was your average mean summated scale score response for landscape 2? Just, I mean, it's not gonna be the same exactly, because everybody's got different items, but what did y'all find over here?
20.35.
Okay, so a little over 20, and what was your wiggliness? What was your standard deviation? Okay, so I would flip over to the third page of this in terms of interpreting this. And I put this little table on here to help you. If somebody put all ones down for a construct of 6 items, we would interpret that as a very strongly disagree kind of response. And you can interpret this all the way up to if they put all 4s down for a 1 to 6 item thing, they have 24. So if you had 6 items in landscape 2, right? And your mean was 20 point, okay? Where does that fall in the scale of strongly disagree or strongly agree? Where does 20 fall?
Agreed.
And Chloe, I like the way you said that. It's between agree and strongly agree. Y'all follow me so far? What's it closer to? Agree or strongly agree? I would probably say that participants, and here's what we said, I love this phrase. Evidence exists to suggest that. Isn't that a nice way of presenting it? You're not saying this proves 4-H can't. Nope. Just says, look, we got some evidence and it's suggesting this. A wonderful way. I always use that phrase. Evidence exists to suggest that campers, these 24-Hers, tended to agree. Not fill in the rest of that. Agree that what? Yeah. That they gain self-responsibility. Exactly. Evidence exists to suggest that these campers, these 20 campers, agreed, using the scale, agreed that they gained self-responsibility.
Was it gained or exhibited?
Yeah, because what it
Nothing
survey to
about-
me is just like, I did this, not I learned how, or I felt like I improved it.
They did that, and so this is an interesting thing. So the kids actually get, many of them get this as a free. And then they get this as a post. So I'm used to saying gained, you're absolutely right. I think, so you're right too. I think if you said in this case, they demonstrated.
Yeah.
Or they exhibited, be a beautiful way to say that. That's right, because the word gained, right, the word gained implies that there's growth, change, implies that there is change, yeah. So in our case, with only one post data set exhibited or they demonstrated. Good way to say that. Excellent, excellent. Let's do the next. What's the algo over here, gang? What was your average, your mean for landscape grade?
20.95.
Okay, so on the upper side of 20, but we're in between agree and strongly agree again. Still closer to the agree than strongly agree, right? So let's say the same thing. Y'all are going to say the same thing about social empathy. Demonstrated or exhibited social empathy. Evidence exists to suggest that these 20 campers demonstrated, exhibited social empathy while on camp. Because of camp, something like that. You're using a scale, you're using language instead of just talking about a number. You could easily say to your stakeholders, well, the average response was 20 points. Well, they're not gonna get that. But if you say it with this language, you're really gonna help it. That's good. Can you see where we're going with 4? What y'all get for 4 with your average? In between 4 and 16 now.
We got 13.
Okay. Can we look at our table? 13's closer to 12 than it is 16, right? Same deal. They agreed. The camp helped them demonstrate decision making. What was your average there between 4 and 16? For landscape 4.
Landscape 4, 6, and 7.
Yeah. So see, even if there's wiggliness in the items that go in constructs, the results are very similar. We're still being able to say that they agreed that they got that from camp. And then our last one, self-awareness, 4 to 16, what was your average over here?
13.8.
Still closer to agree than strongly agree. What was y'all's over here? So it was 12, a little bit lower. Okay, still closer to agree. So in other words, they're all in the agree zone, not strongly agree. So there's some room for understanding more from this group. In fact, that's what we're gonna do next year. We're gonna talk about how do we understand more from that based on what we learned quantitatively. Isn't that nice to be able to talk about data in an everyday way? I love it. It's such a skill set. So here's what I'm gonna ask you to do between now and next week. We're gonna do this together, but just think about it, all right? So I want you to think about this little question right here. Next time we come in here, we're gonna work on posters. We're gonna finish part 3. You're gonna love it because we're almost done right now. Here's what I want you to think about between now and next time. Don't write it, just bring it to class. And I'm gonna give you credit for doing this, make your life a little bit easier. I want you to think about 2 ideas that you could potentially put on a poster about your program. And results of your needs assessment, ideas you have for an activity. Isaac might be saying, I tried this and this worked really well and this didn't. I want my poster to be about what didn't go so hot. Beautiful. Anything. But I want you to come to class with 2 ideas that you could share in your program. I know some of us have implemented an activity, others haven't. That's okay. We've all got something we could share about our program. And next week, I'll show you some examples. I'll even present a poster to you next week to show you what I mean by a poster presentation. You're gonna love it. You're gonna say, that's easy. And that's what we're gonna do together next time. Next time's gonna be a lot of time at loose ends, so that our last class, which is the week after, we're gonna come together and celebrate and talk about what we've done and wrap this thing up. So it's pretty cool. Y'all are doing great. Really impressive work with this data. I'm really proud of you. On a Wednesday afternoon, it's so pretty out. Y'all are doing this kind of work and doing this well. So get on out of here and enjoy your afternoon. And thank you for doing such a great job with this. I'm very impressed. This is great. Awesome work. Come with your ideas next week. This is great. And thank you. This is great. Thank you for the snacks. Thank you. Always impressed with you guys.
Is there a specific deadline by when to implement our program? No. I've been working on stuff right now. It's supposed to be next Thursday.
That'd be
We
great.
will,
I mean,
we will see though. Nobody has replied to me in a couple hours about that. And you know what?
you put together a plan, and I know you're doing the best you can. If you're not able to do it, that's okay. I understand. You know, I don't want you to stress out over that. You've gotten the goals that I've had for this experience. I'd love for you to try it, but I also understand. You know?
I would like to try it. I
Yeah.
finally got a name.
You do what? You don't have a what?
So I finally have a name.
Do you really for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Look at that. What's it say? Save money?
Save money and shop healthy.
I love acronyms, of course.
Yeah.
See you, Summer. Thank you. Oh, that stuff was yours. Good deal. See you later. Y'all are doing great. I'm so impressed with you.
And then I can